so the next unit we're going to look at is plants. Plants have some similar characteristics to things we've looked at already. We just finished talking about protists, such as green algae. Green algae is a plant-like protist. It has some qualities of plants, but it doesn't fit into the plant kingdom because it has some other traits. Plants and this type of protist are both photosynthetic, means they both make their own food through photosynthesis and sunlight. They both have that green pigment, that chlorophyll that makes them look green, and both have starch as their storage for future need of energy supply. Both have cell walls, and those cell walls are made of cellulose. That cellulose ending in OSE, that's a sugar. That's that sugar found in the cell wall of plants. However, those things are similar. There's a lot different for plant and plant-like protists. One of which is plants have developed these adaptations that allow them to live on land. Okay, so some of those adaptations, we have a lot of vocabulary here. First, a cuticle. Cuticle is what allows plants to retain moisture. It's a part of the leaf of the plant, keeps the moisture in. It is a waxy, waterproof layer. Notice if you touch a leaf of a plant, they usually feel real slick and shiny. That's that waxy layer that helps keep water in. Inside, underneath those leaves, we have tiny holes. These holes are called stomata. You can see them in the picture here. Just little small pores, kind of like the pores in your skin. These things open and close, just like the pores in your skin, in order to let things in, let things out. All right. So when the plant wants to do photosynthesis, these open up, allow carbon dioxide to come in, and when photosynthesis is done, they release oxygen out of the same pores, the same holes. All right, these stomata. These stomata are used for that H word we've been talking about all year, homeostasis. It has to be a balance. If you take in carbon dioxide, you got to let out oxygen. You can't have too much of anything. It has to be in balance. All right. So we're looking at here, we have one question. What would happen if there was no cuticle? Well, if there's no cuticle, that balance would not happen. Would the plant be able to take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis? Would it be able to get rid of that waste that it has, that oxygen, if these pores don't open and close constantly? Plants also have a vascular system. We're going to talk more about that later on in this unit. It consists of a xylem and a phloem. It allows resources to move throughout the plant, up and down throughout the plant. All right. They are a collection of tissues. We've talked a little bit about tissues. We've got tissues and organs, systems, all those things we're going to talk about here with the plant as well. The xylem itself, it brings water and nutrients up from the roots to the rest of the plant. Phloem takes things from the leaves down into the plant. Okay, so you got two directions here. You got xylem going up, phloem going down. All right, this is what allows the plant to grow tall, higher up off the ground. These two parts of this system. All right. Another specialized characteristic for plants is pollen. Pollen allows reproduction without water. All right, this pollen is what moves from plant to plant. You see in the picture here, you've got the flower, the center of the flower, it's got all the yellow little pollen grains on there. All right, they contain one single cell that divides to form a sperm. All right, so that pollen that you see right now falling off of the trees, making your cars yellow, on the ground you see yellow washing up in the lakes, that is all the sperm cell of the plant. All right. If you see the bee here, the bee is doing something to help the plant. The bee likes the nectar that's down inside that flower, so that it gets what it wants, and it's at the same time the pollen sticks to the bee. The bee carries it to other flowers so that we can have reproduction happening within flowers. It's a mutualistic relationship. The bee gets something from the flower gets its pollen carried to another plant. We work together. All right. Why do these plants, or why do most plants have bright color flowers? Right. Bright color flowers are attractant. Insects can see that. They like those colors. They go to those colors. They're drawn to them, and that helps the plant get its pollen, its sperm cells to other plants so that we can have reproduction. Pollen can also be carried by wind, water, several other means. Seeds are another specialized structure of the plant that provides storage and protection for the developing plant, for a new plant that's growing. It's not necessarily needing water. It has everything inside it that it needs, so that we don't have to have a whole lot of standing water for this process to happen. All right, the growth of a new plant. Seed coats protect the embryo from drying out, keeps that moisture inside. You see the seed coat on the outside of the seed here. And then we have our embryo, our baby plant, right there on the edge, and the cotyledon in the middle, which we'll talk a little bit more about cotyledon later. When this seed comes in contact with water, that starts the whole process. That seed is dormant. It's sitting there. Nothing's happening. It's just waiting to come in contact with water so that it can start what we call germination. Germination is how a plant grows from a seed to that actual plant. All right, the embryo develops when the environment, when the conditions are favorable. It doesn't want to do this when we're in the middle of a drought. It wants to have enough water, enough support, enough food for that plant to grow and develop properly. You can see at the bottom here we have a diagram of germination. Starts with just that seed. Once that seed has the favorable conditions, got water, it moves to the next stage, and as it grows, it gets bigger and bigger. It pops out of the ground, and it's starting to be a full-fledged plant. Right? Most seeds you find, like beans, in the bag in the store, they're dormant. They're waiting for the right conditions. You take them, you put them you plant them, put them with water, give them some nutrients. They're going to grow. They're going to grow into a plant. They're just not at the right conditions in that bag sitting inside that store. We said there's many ways seeds can be dispersed. We saw we saw how pollen can be dispersed with the wind and water and animals or insects. Seeds can be dispersed as well. If you look at the milkweed up here in the top left corner, this milkweed, every one of those little black dots attached to the wing-like structures, those are seeds. Wind blows, it blows those around. You almost use it like a little parachute on there, blows it around over to a place where it can land and start developing into its own plant. Animals transfer seeds as well. You see this poor puppy here. He's got some grass burrs on him. Those are the seeds of the grass burr plant. He's going to get those on him, and when he goes somewhere else, he's going to scratch because they make you itch and knock them off, and they're going to grow a whole new grass burr plant. All right, so we have the dandelion also with wind, and we have, you see this thing floating here in the water. That's the seed from the palm tree. It fell off the tree, and it's being taken somewhere by the water. It's going to be washed ashore and get buried in the dirt, and guess what? We got another palm tree that's going to grow there. All of these different ways ensure that offspring will survive. All right, that reduces the amount of competition needed or that happens, and it allows them to survive and for that organism to continue on. Another thing that plants have, and we've talked about this before, coevolution. Plants evolve with other organisms. All right. We know that certain bacteria help plants by changing nitrogen into things that they can use. Right? Fungi can do similar things, making nutrients for plants. They evolve together. Animals that pollinate. We've talked about this one here on the right, that long nose mouth like thing that insect has, because it has to stick its all the way down inside that flower, inside that plant, to get what it needs. And at the same time, it's going to help by taking the pollen from that plant to another plant so that reproduction can happen. These two organisms had to evolve together. If not, the insect doesn't get what it needs, the plant doesn't get what it needs, they both would die off. Instead, they evolved together to support each other. Some other adaptations that plants have, you see these. Some of us have felt these. Spines or thorns. For instance, that cactus there, it's for protection. It doesn't want something to eat on it. So it developed these over time. It evolved to develop these spines that hurt when organisms touch them. And even actually can irritate, make you itch, different things like that, depending on what plant it is, so that they, as a defensive mechanism to keep organisms from eating them. Some plants secrete chemicals that burn or taste bad, so that the animals or organisms don't want to eat them anymore. The one at the bottom down here is a stimulus to touch. This fern, whenever it's touched, will shrivel up and look dead. Well, that's not appealing to an animal who eats plants. It doesn't want to eat this dead, shriveled up looking thing, because it's not going to taste good, it's not going to be filling, not going to give it the nutrients it needs. It wants something that looks like this live one over here. But as soon as something touches it, it shrivels up as a defense mechanism to look like it's unappealing, like it's dead.